got a chance to look at activity number 5, and if you were struggling through the table in activity A, it turns out that A is one that when I've taught face-to-face classes and there's lots of students in the class, very few can figure out what the pattern is for A. So this is a very hard table. Table B, however, most students are very successful, so we would consider this to be an easy table. Table C, well, again, very few students actually figure out the pattern for this one, so we consider this to be a hard table. By the way, those of you who are wondering, but what's the answer? I'll come back to that. Table D. Table D, again, even though there's exponents, turns out to be a fairly easy table. Most groups of students that are in groups of 3 or 4 can figure this one out. E. E, many students will figure a pattern out, but only some students will be correct. So I consider this to be somewhat easy, but it has a little bit of a trick to it. And F, same thing with F. Many students will think they have an answer, but only some of those answers will work. So this is somewhat easy. So let's go back and look at why Table A is hard. One of the things that happens in Table A, when you look at just the output column, is that those numbers don't show any sort of a pattern. They're just the answers to what the pattern might be. Without a pattern, it's very difficult to figure out what this last step should be. I'm going to fill in the input column. So those of you who think you have a pattern, I will let you know if you're correct. In a little bit. Let's go to the easier ones first. So in the second one, in the output column, we've got these expressions. 8 times 1 minus 5. 8 times 2 minus 5. 8 times 3 minus 5. 8 times 4 minus 5. So there's a nice pattern that seems to be going down, and each line of this pattern has 8 times in it. And then it has a number in here, and that number keeps changing, but the minus 5 doesn't. So that part of the pattern we already know is the same. Now here's a number over here that says 1, 2, 3, 4, X. Notice that the number 1 matches this output number over here. 2 matches the output number here. And all along that continues to happen. So X should match the output number here. So that would be the answer for B. And we consider B to be an easy pattern that we would expect most of you to be able to figure out. All right, C again is one of those hard ones. And the Y values are 2, 9, 28, 65, and then something. But there's no expressions to try and see what that pattern is. And so we'll come back to that one. Let's take a look at another easy one. So in this expression, the first one is 2, and then the second one is 2 to the third plus 1. There's not a lot that's the same in those two, but the next line is 3 to the third plus 1, and 4 to the third plus 1. So when we look at each of these lines, maybe with the exception of that one, we've got 2 to the third plus 1, 3 to the third plus 1, 4 to the third plus 1. So there's a number here that keeps changing, but they're all being raised to the third power plus 1. So the input over here for x is 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then x. And again, one of the things you want to make sure of before you just put an x in there is that this 2 matches this output number over here, and this 3 matches this output number here. So when we get down to x, it should match this output number over here. Again, D is considered an easy table, and I hope you can see how that pattern keeps repeating. Now let's see why E is a somewhat easy pattern. So Y starts out with 3, and then 5 times 1 plus 3, and 5 times 2 plus 3, and 5 times 3 plus 3. And we start to see a pattern where each one of these lines, except for the first one, is 5 times something that changes plus 3. Okay, this looks like our other two easy patterns, but let's take a look at our x values before we jump to any conclusions. So when x is a 2, this number over here is a 1. Notice that 2 and 1 don't match. 3, and this number is 2. 4, and this number is 3. So we have to think about what's happening to 2 to get to 1, 3 to get to 2, and hopefully you're seeing that each of these numbers over here is 1 less than the number over here. So what we need is 1 less than x. And you need to put that in parentheses so that that happens first. This is why I say this is somewhat easy, because you have to do a little bit of work to figure out what to put in this blank spot. And let's look at F. So our expressions are 7 times 4 minus 1, 12 times 4 minus 1, 17 times 4 minus 1, 22 times 4 minus 1. So in each line, this number changes, and then we times it by 4 and minus 1. So let's take a look at our input values for x. The first one is 5, and then 10, and then 15, 20, and x. So when our input was 5, this number over here was a 7. When our input is 10, this number is 12. You might start to notice that these numbers over here are 2 more than the numbers in this column. 15 and 2 is 7. 20 and 2 is 22. So we want this to be x plus 2. And again, group that so that happens first, times 4 minus 1. Again, because this is a little more tricky, we consider this to be somewhat easy. Okay, for those of you who think you have an answer for A, one of the possibilities for A in terms of what the pattern would be x plus 1 first, and then squared. I'm not going to spend too much time on how to get that because I think it's a hard table, and I wouldn't recommend any of us trying to do that on our own. Those of you who got it, amazing. Because I think that's a very difficult answer. This one over here, a little bit harder. This happens to be x raised to the third power and then plus 1. I will be really amazed if anyone got that particular formula. However, many people may have gotten this formula. Which is interesting because C and D are exactly the same. So the reasons that C is hard and D is easy is that D includes expressions on how to get to the answer. C includes just numbers. Whenever you fill up a table with just numbers, without their expressions, you're creating something that's hard to come up with a formula for. You're going to be doing lots of problems where building a table is part of your first step, but your second or third step is going to be to want to come up with this last line, this algebra expression. It's up to you when you're building your tables to make sure that you're making your tables easy and not making your tables hard. Okay, we're going to have you try and do problem number 6 on page 195, and then we'll post the answers for what those examples are. Again, if you find a table that's really hard, you can skip that one and go to the ones that you think are easier.